Hi, everyone. Welcome to my Hot Topic Tuesday. I am April Blackford, and I am a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. And today we have a treat. So, today we are going to deep dive a little bit into Candida overgrowth. Um, have you been feeling bloated, exhausted, or struggling with brain fog and cravings? Do you crave sugar like crazy, but end up feeling worse after you eat it? Well, what if I told you that these could all be signs of Candida overgrowth? Um, Candida is something that I see all of the time with my clients, especially women struggling with gut issues, stubborn weight loss, and hormone imbalances. But the good news is that you can actually beat this and end up feeling like yourself again. That's the big thing is that it can just be so impactful from a systematic level, and it just knowing and identifying and resolving can make a day and night difference. I wanted to share a little bit story or share a little story. One of my clients, Kate, had came to me feeling completely exhausted, bloated, and just overall frustrated with her health. She had been struggling at the time, she had been struggling with constant bloating and gut discomfort. Basically, no matter what she ate, she just felt puffy, inflamed, and sluggish all the time. She was experiencing brain fog and fatigue. She needed multiple cups of coffee a day just to kind of get through. She was experiencing stubborn weight gain despite eating healthy and working out, 4 or 5 times a week. She just could not lose a pound. She had crazy sugar cravings. She felt like sugar was controlling her and not the other way around, which is very, very common. I hear that a lot. Um, and she also had recurring yeast infections and skin breakouts. Something felt off, but her doctors kept telling her that everything was normal. Surprise, surprise. And just to add in, like the for those of y'all watching, the skin is a almost always a direct reflection of our gut and immune system. So like if you have issues with the skin, it's definitely something more to explore. But with Kate, after running a GI map stool test, we discovered that Candida overgrowth was a major culprit behind her symptoms. And together, we built a personalized Candida clearing protocol. And just after 4 weeks, she noticed her bloating was almost completely gone. By 6 weeks, her brain fog had lifted and she no longer relied on coffee. And then after just 3 months, 12 weeks, which sounds like a long time, but not when you had suffered as long as she had actually lost 12 pounds like with minimal effort, with like no effort, without extreme dieting, anything like that. Her sugar cravings were non-existent, and she finally felt in control of her food choices again. But the best part is that her confidence skyrocketed, and she felt like herself again. And I can honestly say with this topic today, like it actually kind of hits close to home because I can relate because I have actually been there myself. And I know how frustrating it is when you feel like you're doing everything right, but yet you're still struggling. Your body's just kind of working against you. So today in the live, we are going to talk about what Candida overgrowth is, why it's making you feel terrible, and most importantly, how you can actually get rid of it naturally. So let's kind of dive right on in. So first, what is Candida? I think a lot of people already know what it is, but Candida is a type of yeast that naturally lives in our gut. It's normal and it's actually helpful in small quantities, but when it overgrows, that's when it becomes problematic. So kind of think of your gut like a garden. When weeds take over in the garden, they choke out the good plants. And Candida is kind of like an overgrown weed that's disrupting the whole entire gut balance. So, like you can have a beautiful garden with flowers, your shrubs, everything's flourishing. But then if you've got these weeds that, you kind of let go rampant, then before you know, they're going to take over those pretty flowers and you're not going to see the flowers anymore. All you're going to see is the weeds. That's kind of like Candida. Now, some common causes of Candida overgrowth are The first one would be a diet high in sugar and processed foods. I mean, that's kind of a no-brainer. Candida loves sugar. It feeds off of sugar, and sugar is like fuel to the fire for Candida. So it's almost like the more you eat, the more you're fueling and allowing that to grow. So that's the first one. The second one would be antibiotic use. If you have a history of high antibiotic use, or you have been prescribed a lot of antibiotics in the past, like I tend to hear about people having reoccurring UTIs. That's a big one, or reoccurring sinus infections. So reoccurring antibiotic use. You ever had antibiotics and then just kind of felt off afterwards? Antibiotics actually kill good and bad bacteria, which can allow Candida to thrive. Um, the third one would be chronic stress. Now, I couldn't have a lot of Facebook Live without talking about stress. Stress is almost always going to be added in pretty much every single topic. Chronic stress, high cortisol weakens our gut defense. So it in turn makes it easier for Candida to take over. The fourth one would be hormonal imbalances and birth control pills. So estrogen dominance can actually worsen Candida as well. So oftentimes, like hormonal imbalances or birth control can actually exacerbate and make gut conditions worse versus helping. That's another topic though, because obviously that's not something that most people can just, I'm going to stop taking today. You might want to, plan ahead for that one. And the fifth one would be a weakened immune system. So if your immune system is weakened and run down already, then it's not going to be able to keep Candida in check. So kind of keep it at bay and keep it from overgrown. Now, what are some signs of Candida overgrowth? Signs and symptoms of Candida overgrowth. For those of y'all listening, let me know in the comments if any of these sound familiar. I suspect that they probably do. So if you're experiencing gut issues like bloating, constipation, or diarrhea, basically like IBS-like symptoms, does your poop often look fluffy? So we could have a Facebook Live on what an ideal perfect poop looks like, which would be an S-shaped log. But do you oftentimes take a poop and your poop looks fluffy? That is actually somewhat of it's kind of like a fun fact sign of a Candida. Um, Another symptom would be brain fog and fatigue. You ever feel like your brain's just like in a fog, like you can't gather your thoughts together? Candida can actually impact brain function. And then you have skin problems, so acne, eczema, rashes, fungal infections. Those are all clear indications and signs and symptoms of Candida. Um, and then you got the hormonal imbalances. Candida can mess with our estrogen levels, which in turn, for those of y'all out there that are in perimenopause, all of a sudden it just seems like your symptoms have gotten worse. Like the hot flashes and the rage and the rage. Let's say rage 4 or 5 more times. But anyway, hormonal imbalances. That is another one. Sugar and carb cravings. If you feel like your sugar is controlling you, then Candida might be the reason. And then little weird symptoms like a white coating on your tongue, recurring yeast infections, and also sinus congestion. Those are all signs and symptoms of Candida as well. Now, how can we beat Candida naturally? So let's talk about how to get rid of Candida the right way, natural way, the right way. The first step would be to starve the Candida. So to start to eradicate it, we have to take away its fuel source. So the fuel source would be like sugar, processed foods, and refined carbs. Now, the best foods to eat when you're trying to eradicate Candida would be non-starchy veggies, leafy greens, healthy fats, and high-quality proteins. Those are all great sources. Now, what do you want to avoid? You typically want to avoid sugar, alcohol, artificial sweeteners, gluten, dairy, dairy specifically. Some people can tolerate dairy fine, but you typically want to avoid lactose, at least because lactose is actually lactose is the sugar in dairy. Um, and also you want to avoid processed foods and refined carbs. The second step would be to support your gut with probiotics and prebiotics. Um, Candida thrives when our gut bacteria is out of balance. So we need to restore the good bacteria. So the good bacteria is also referenced as the commensal bacteria. The bad bacteria is oftentimes referenced as the opportunistic bacteria. So we need to restore the good bacteria, the commensal bacteria. Some of the best probiotic strains to take when you're eradicating Candida is Saccharomyces boulardii is the first one. I love that one because that one has so many uses. I was actually just chatting with someone yesterday about this. It has so many uses for gut healing in general. Plus, it's now there's some really, really good quality probiotics out there, but it's it's a great one because it has so many uses, but also it's fairly inexpensive in comparison to some of the other ones because you can get some fancy ones that, have probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, whatever, and they can be pretty costly. And this one is actually pretty affordable. So Saccharomyces boulardii and also Lactobacillus acidophilus. Um, those two are good strains that actually help, with combating with killing off candida. And then you want to look at prebiotic rich foods. So things like garlic, onions, asparagus, and flax seeds can actually kind of help prebiotic. The prebiotic foods will help feed the good bacteria. Because I mean, you don't want to just you don't just want to get it from, the probiotic. Like you want to populate the bacteria and then use the prebiotics to actually feed and grow. Almost think of like, having your garden thrive, with the flowers and not the weeds. The third step would be to add in some antifungal support. So killing off candida too fast can actually cause die-off symptoms. So it's smart to go slow. The die-off symptoms are often called a Herxheimer reaction, and they can, depending on the person and how their detox pathways are, they can be some pretty gnarly symptoms. So some of the top antifungals, some of the top natural antifungals that I often use are caprylic acid. Now, this is something that's actually found naturally in coconut oil. So it works to break down candida biofilms. And then you have oregano oil. This one is super powerful. It's a good one. And this is another one. It's kind of like Saccharomyces boulardii, where it's used in a lot of different natural healing methods of the gut. It's super powerful, but you have to be careful not to overdo it and use it in cycles because this one, it can actually be very powerful and can actually wipe out good bacteria as well. And if you have an issue where your good commensal bacteria is lacking in general, you don't want to kill off, you don't want to overdo something and then kill off, the little bit that you got left. Because then in turn that's going to make you, more susceptible to when you do come in contact with bacteria pathogens. Those types of things, basically your system's going to be weakened. And then you have garlic and berberine. These are actually sometimes referenced as nature's antifungals. Those are really good. I typically will rotate antifungals. Typically will see the best response with rotating antifungals. Garlic is a really, really powerful one, and the most potent form would be allicin. So like allicin, rotating allicin, oregano oil, and then caprylic acid. Those all like work powerfully. Um, so the fourth step would be to ensure that your detox pathways are open. So we had talked about earlier about, the Herxheimer reaction or the detox, the die-off symptoms, which can be, pretty gnarly. So when Candida dies, it releases toxins. And if your detox pathways aren't working or aren't open properly, then you're actually going to feel worse before you feel better. So if you suspect that you have Candida and you start to you incorporate the diet and you start to add in some natural antifungals, and you immediately just start feeling like trash, like you're like, well, wait, I feel worse than I did before. Just be patient, go a little bit slow, but be patient because that actually could be the die-off reaction. So sometimes you feel worse before you actually feel better. So you want to make sure that that you are supporting your liver and your detox organs. So ways that you can do that would be first one, the top easiest one would be to drink plenty of water. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Eat cruciferous veggies, so things like broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower. The fiber actually will help eliminate toxins through poop. So the fiber binds the toxins and then allows us to release them out the body in our poop. And then also consider adding in a binder or like activated charcoal or binders if you're dealing with any type of die-off. Now these actually act as a sweeper to mop up and sweep toxins out of the body. But you want to make sure that you're being cautious with these because they can be harsh for some. It can be very, very helpful to utilize electrolytes. And also make sure that you're using them properly. So don't just add in binders and, don't just add in binders and be like, okay, that's just one more thing on my list. Just proceed with caution, do electrolytes, and just realize that a lot of binders need to be at least an hour, depending on the binder, but a lot of them need to be at least an hour away from any other supplements or medications because again, they kind of act as like a sweeper, so it's like you're killing off these toxins and then the binder pretty much kind of like helps like mop them up and like sweep them out of the body. But the same thing can be said for, like if you're taking other supplements or if you're taking any medications, you never want to take binders around, or typically most typical binders, you don't want to take them around that because they can actually counteract those. So be cautious about that. The fifth step would be you want to reduce stress and get quality sleep. Yes, I'm going to harp on the stress again. So, stress weakens the immune system and can raise blood sugar. Both of these actually fuel candida. Um, the best stress management tips that I can give you are prioritizing self-care. And self-care is not, a lot of people just think self-care is let me go get a manicure and pedicure. No, that is not. That is not the definition of self-care. I mean, it could be for some people, but for a lot of people, it's not. Prioritizing self-care, deep breathing, meditation, practicing yoga, prioritizing at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night for healing. All of those are going to be crucial, for ensuring that you are set up for success with healing. Now, what are some common mistakes that I see with treating Candida? So, what I see people getting wrong all the time are the first one would be going too hard and too fast. Well, I'm sure that's not the first time I heard that. So, going too hard and too fast, killing off Candida too quickly can make you feel like you have the flu. Again, we're going back to the die-off reaction. So, you feel bad now and you start to work on Candida. Say you've got all these symptoms and you have the white film on your tongue. You're pretty sure Candida is a problem. Like sugar is like the best thing since, you were born. all, all the signs and symptoms are there and you're like, okay, I'm going to tackle this. And you start basically you just go all in, you start too fast, and then in turn you start having these gnarly dial symptoms and it makes you feel just like utter trash. You feel like you have the flu. You're actually, some people can actually experience like a fever and chills and just really, really poor reaction. So going too hard too fast is a mistake I see most people doing, not addressing the root cause. So, even if candida is an issue, you're not you will, if you don't fix your gut health, stress, and your diet, candida will come back. So let's say candida is a problem, but what about if there are other, opportunistic bacterias that are at play that you need to work on? Or what if there's other pathogens? Or what if there is the bowel flow issue? Or what if you're lacking stomach acid? You know, addressing all the contributing factors could, or will actually play a role. Another common mistake that I see is skipping probiotics. You can't just kill Candida. You have to replace it with good bacteria. So you have to kind of repopulate the gut flora. And then lastly would be giving up too soon. Like, depending on the extent of the Candida, it can be a marathon, yeah, and not a sprint for some people. Healing takes time. If y'all were like me though, I literally felt a day and night difference just after the first 7 days. Like the diet itself was super impactful for me. And within the first 7 days, like literally, it was like a 180 just in how I felt. But again, everybody's different. Healing from Candida is not about perfection, it's about consistency. You don't have to overhaul everything overnight. And I would say that a lot of the people that I work with, I remind them of this almost, I'm not gonna say every single day, but it's close to every single day. Consistency is not what we do all of the time, it's what we do most of the time. If you're someone out there that has that perfectionist mentality, I can relate. Um, Striving for perfection is it can actually add more stress, and it just does not fit with most people's lives day to day, because unfortunately most days the universe has other plans for us, or for our day. So just instead focus on consistency. If you're struggling with gut issues, brain fog, or hormone imbalances, and just addressing Candida might be the missing piece. So if this resonated with you, drop an emoji in the comments and also share it with a friend or someone that you know that may be struggling with this. And lastly, if you want some more support, if so, let's chat. I offer functional testing and personalized plans to help you heal. Drop me a DM and just mention Candida if you're ready to take action. Everybody have a great week.